Want insight, encouragement, and the truth about writing, speaking, and creating? Welcome to For Writers and Speakers, the Called Creatives podcast, hosted today by myself, Alli Worthington. Lisa's out today, but today's guest is Allyson Golden. You probably already follow her great Instagram account, Words Are Golden. She's sharing her story, her behind-the-scenes publishing story, and how she has built such a great audience on Instagram. I think you're going to love this one. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Called Creatives podcast, Allyson. I am thrilled that you're here. I want to start out and have you tell us, did you know you were going to be an author? Was this a dream you had since you were a little girl? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so surprisingly, no, I did not dream of being an author when I was a little girl. I went to school to be a nurse. I went to college to be a nurse, and so I graduated with my bachelor's of science in nursing and started my job as a pediatric nurse and thought I was going to be just a nurse for the rest of my life. And then I just started sharing my faith on social media, and a love for writing sprung up within me as I started to do that. It was almost like the Lord was just revealing this new gift that I had inside of me that I had no idea was there, as I began to just fall in love with writing and putting my thoughts to words or putting my thoughts on paper in like a creative way. I was like, oh, I do think I have a dream of writing a book one day, but definitely feel like it'll be way later in my life. But the Lord had different plans.
That's amazing. Am I right to say you kind of came up through Instagram and building that social media audience is what did it for you? Talk about that process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I never even sought out to like build some type of platform. I truly started my Instagram page, Words Are Golden, because I was wanting a creative outlet. I was working 3 days a week, and on the 4 days I was off from being a nurse, I was like, I love being creative. I'm starting to love writing, and I love making graphics. And that's kind of where it all started. And it was just a friend encouraging me, hey, you should start sharing this on Instagram. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun. And so I did. And then people were like, we love this. Like, this is such an encouragement to me. And then from that, I started sending out prayer emails every Monday morning. And that was also really encouraging people. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm a person who can have random hobbies for just like a short period of time. And so truly, I thought this was going to be a 3-month thing or a 6-month thing. And then a year goes by and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm still doing this and I feel a lot of momentum behind it. So, okay, we're going to keep going. From that came like guest writing on blogs. So the Lord really just like took me on this journey where he was like, I am going to take you somewhere that you never envisioned yourself going, but it's been so fun. Instagram has definitely been like the propeller of everything, I would say. It's where it all started and it's where I'm still at. And it's really the only platform that I'm truly on the most. And so, Instagram's definitely where it all started.
That's great. When did you start your account? And then when did you start seeing momentum? And what all were you posting? How often? Mm-hmm. What did that look like?
Yeah. So I started the account in August or September of 2019. So I think we're like 4.5-ish years in. 4.5 years. At first, oh gosh, I want to say I wasn't posting every day. I truly was just like posting when I felt like it, because it wasn't a thing that I felt like I needed to keep up yet. But the momentum came a few months after I started my account around Easter time. So about 4 years ago, that's when a few of my posts just really hit people's heartstrings, I think, with Easter, and they were just reshared a lot. And so a lot of the content that I do share are quotes in a graphic form. I'm not really like a lifestyle poster, you could say. Truly, I'm trying to post a little bit more of my face now because people don't know who I am, and I have a book out in the world and they're like, we don't know who you are. I'm like, okay, I'll try to post a little bit of my face a little bit more. So there's a little bit more of my face now, but truly it was just graphics for years and years and years. And people just really resonated with those like pulled quotes from my caption. And then as the years have gone on, I've done some like really longer posts through the carousel posts, and those have done really well for me too. And so that's kind of where my niche is, I would say, is I don't I guess, I have a specific audience, but really it's just encouraging women with what the Lord teaching me. I just want to share what I'm learning from the Lord because I'm sure someone else probably needs to hear this too if this is what he's teaching me. And so that's kind of just my heart and where we've come from the beginning. It's just always been me sharing what the Lord's teaching me in my quiet time. That's what the page started as, and that's kind of what it's still at now. And so frequency of posting nowadays is almost once a day, but that's also because I just launched a book. So it ebbs and flows with different seasons. But for the most part, I try to not be super religious about it and mainly just like, okay, Lord, like what's in it for me this season? Am I supposed to pull back a little bit and not be on Instagram as much? Or am I supposed to be on it every single day right now? It's always just a conversation that I'm having with him, and it's always changing.
That's great. I always like to say for us as writers, our outputs are determined by how good our inputs are.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, you're spending a lot of time figuring out what the Lord has for you. What are your inputs?
Do you mean just my time with the Lord and what's pouring into me?
Lord, other books you're reading, or other things that you're learning?
Yeah, so definitely my time with the Lord in the mornings, and I've been into podcasts a little bit lately, just sermons, and one I've been loving is called the Handlebar Podcast. It's by Upper Room. They're based in Dallas, and that's been really encouraging to me. And just also time with friends, like knowing when I'm in almost like a dangerous zone, you could say, with Instagram. Like if it's really starting to affect my mental health, knowing that, okay, like I need to tell someone, usually it's my husband. And so then he's like, okay, you need to like go hang out with friends, like go get poured into by real people. And so that's an input for me as well. And then also just like being out in nature is something that really fills me up and inspires me as well.
I love those things. Okay, so let's talk about publishing. First book, what was surprising to you about the publishing process?
Oh, goodness. Gosh, one, it's a whole new world when you first publish a book, right? It's this like thing that you're like, what? Like, that's what it's like? And so I just feel like I did learn about publishing in 2020. I did do Lisa Turkhurst's book proposal boot camp before I even started writing, or this was the book actually that I formed in that boot camp, which is really cool. But I got to learn about publishing in that. And so I do feel like I kind of at least like knew a little bit of what to expect when it came to getting a literary agent and then having them send out your proposal to all these publishing companies. It's such a trusting in the Lord experience of, okay, Lord, if you want this book in the world, you're going to do it. I have to play my part. There is a part we have to play. We can't just be like, la-di-da, I'm not going to do anything, but ask him how we can partner with him. I feel like what was shocking is, well, I loved my publisher, and I know that there can be a lot of different things said about different publishing companies out there. And I really loved my publisher, like a lot. I loved my editor. I loved who I worked with in marketing. And I would say I was surprised with how supportive of my message they were, because a lot of times they're like, oh, did they make you change this? I feel like that's the most asked question I get, which is so funny because maybe it's more in like the fiction world where their manuscripts get changed a lot. But like truly, I'm like, they made mine so much better than it was when I turned my first draft in. So I would say that's probably the most shocking thing to me, was that they were so in support of my message. And not that I didn't think that they would be, but they were like so for it. And so that was just so sweet and encouraging to know that I had people on my side and behind me and supporting me in this crazy thing, especially being a first-time author with a trade book. I had written a devotional before, but it was just a little bit smaller of a deal than this one. And so it just, felt different. And that's, I'd say, what surprised me the most.
I love that. Okay, if you could go back and give yourself advice before you first got started, what are some kind of nuggets of advice you would give yourself?
There's so much pressure from the world, from social media, from ourselves. And I would truly just want to tell myself to be a little bit easier on myself in the launching process, but also in that like beginner stage of when the book proposal is being sent out. to publishers. It's so easy to want to control everything, but to ultimately just know that the Lord, He's going to do what He wants to do, regardless of what we want. And He knows what's best. He knows what's needed. He knows where the message is needed. It really is just like, I wish I could tell myself, you can trust the Lord's timing. You truly can. You can 100%, not just 99%, but actually like 100% trust His timing and His way. And know that it's not a reflection of you. Book sales aren't a reflection of you. How big a publisher you sign with or how small a publisher you sign with isn't a reflection of you. So often we just like put those identities on ourselves and then we can spiral, and that's just Satan doing his thing. So just stand confident that the Lord sees you and He knows you and He knows the message He's placed in you and He knows where it needs to go and when it needs to get out in the world if that's His will.
Oh, so good. Such good encouragement. Okay, let's talk about audience building.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram is always the bane of a lot of people's existence, the algorithm and figuring out what works and all of those things. What works best for you on Instagram? What are the little tips that maybe you could share with us and the audience?
It's so different for everyone. But for me, my posts that have quotes that just really resonate with people get reshared. And so that just builds momentum and usually does help with my account growing. Granted, I could post something that I think is so great and it doesn't do well. We can't just put all our eggs in a basket and hope and think that that's going to do it. And that's not where our identity lies either. And so I think that's super important. But for me personally, I know that my posts that are quotes do the best. Because truly, like, even I posted on the day that I launched my book a photo of myself with the book, and like my least engaged post all year. So
my audience is like that too. They want a great
quote.
Yeah.
They want a good quote. But again, that's not everyone, because some other people's accounts, their photos of themselves do amazing. And so it just depends on what your audience likes, what they're following you for. And my audience is following me for encouragement. They're not following me for photos of myself. But also, I do think that people really want just to see realness. They want to see truth. And so showing up just as you are, your silly, fun, goofy, or your quiet self is what people want to see. They just want to see that they're not alone in their crazy thoughts. They're not alone in their silliness. They're not alone in their mess. And so showing up as we are is the best thing that we could do.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it can be really liberating for women to hear you don't have to dance on reels.
Yeah.
You don't have to show your face all the time. Really amazing encouragement and truth on a graphic. Mm-hmm. It works really well. And you have a great aesthetic. The style you use on Instagram works really well. So I love that. How do you protect yourself from kind of the Instagram bottlenecks of comparison and, oh, look at what this person's doing and this person's doing, because it really throws women for the loop.
It really does. And it's actually something that I'm really having to work on right now, even in the middle of book launch season. My book came out when some very big authors' books came out as well. And so it was really easy to see what they're doing and then try to do it myself. And then it literally like not work at all. It's like, as soon as I was wanting to take things in my own hands and try to sell my book myself, all on my own, it wasn't working out because I stopped going to the Lord before posting or before doing things, because I was like, forget you, like, I'm going to try to do this on my own. So I'm really having to put up some more boundaries and guardrails with my social media, like the amount that I'm consuming. Honestly, I'm really trying to just like, okay, Lord, what do you want me to share today? How can I encourage people, whether that be related to what I wrote my book about or not, and just posting that and trying not to consume as much, because the more I consume, the more my mind is going up like, oh, I could do this that way. I could do this that way. I can take what she did and do it this way. And you're just like on this hamster wheel. I feel like I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. And that can be really exhausting. And that's where the enemy can sneak in and be like, look how successful that was for her and it wasn't for you. That's just not what the Lord has for us, right? We do need sometimes to look at things for inspiration. I think that that's beautiful, but we can definitely set boundaries. And so that's something that I'm actually practicing right now is like, okay, I don't need to be scrolling all day long. And then I noticed at the end of the day, I'm in a bad mood or super cranky towards my husband. And it's literally just because I was comparing myself to other people all day long. Where if you feel called to show up on social media, just like I do, we do have to protect ourselves because it is a great place to show up, but it's also a place where the enemy can use it for evil too, to really make us feel less than and unworthy and fall into that comparison. And we want to be people who celebrate other authors and other people who are doing what we're doing. Granted, the Lord's reaching so many different people through all of us.
Yeah, totally. What about dreams for the future? Do you have any ideas or things you want to do in the future that you feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah, I love being with people, and I'm in seminary right now, and I actually just took a spiritual gifts test last semester, and since taking that test, I need to be doing something that's using all my gifts. My top 3 gifts were hospitality, intercession, and faith. I love hosting, like hosting dinner parties. Intentional dinner parties is my jam. It's my favorite thing to do. And I've always loved creating spaces for women. I'm dreaming with the Lord right now what that looks like, whether that's retreats or, I don't know, some type of like intimate space for women to come to where they can just sit at the feet of the Lord. And again, I'm still dreaming with the Lord of what that looks like. I love praying over people. I love creating a space for people to just come sit and be with Jesus and get filled up by him because, again, he's the only thing that satisfies us. I do think the audience will be for, creatives or authors or people who share on social media or just have a job that they feel like they're striving at and they want to just come and let striving seize. And so that's something I'm dreaming about with the Lord right now, which is so fun.
Thank you for sharing. That's so exciting. I see you just glow when you talk about it. I can't wait to see that develop over the years. That's really exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's definitely, beginning stages. But I do feel like the Lord's starting to turn the wheels in my head more. And hopefully I have a little more margin coming up soon to be able to maybe host a first one with whatever. Again, I don't know what it fully looks like yet, but I'm starting to really ask the Lord what it does look like.
You don't have to know because the Lord knows.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how he just shines the light on the path just enough for us to keep going, and then he'll give us more details. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell us, but do you have any future book ideas brewing inside?
That's the same thing. I have the idea, but it's not solidified yet. So,
but it's brewing.
Yep, it's brewing. I know there'll be another book, but I don't have any details about it yet.
Good. It's nice to launch a book and not be under a lot of pressure to start writing another one right now.
Yes.
Yeah. It gives you time to live a little and figure out what you want to say. That's what I always say. I need to figure out what I want to say.
Yeah, that's so good. I'm definitely enjoying the season. I'm a little over 2 weeks post book launch. And so granted, I'm still having podcast interviews and stuff like that, but it's nothing like it was those few weeks leading up. And now I'm just like, yay, it's in the world and I get to rest.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this has been so great. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, so my Instagram account is called Words Are Golden, and that's where I hang out the most. I also have a website that's also wordsaregolden.com. So that's where you can find me.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We will all be following and cheering you on and getting the new book.
Thanks, Alli. So much fun talking with you today.
Thanks for joining us on the Called Creatives podcast. Be sure to download your free book proposal template. You can go to calledcreatives.com/book-proposal. We created it just for you. So whether you're writing this for an agent or to organize your thoughts before you write, this template will help your book process be a huge success. We'll see you back here on the Called Creatives podcast.